You think modern dating is complicated, with endless texts, unread messages, and quick coffee dates that never seem to go anywhere. Now imagine a world where even a fleeting glance could make your heart race, where fans, parasols, and the way you walk all became secret languages of love. In this video, you're about to step into Victorian London to discover what dating was really like over a century ago. Together, we'll wander cobblestone streets, hear the gentle clip-clop of horses, and feel the slow, tender rhythm of hearts learning to love. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another soothing bedtime story, and leave a comment below. Where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it for you right now? Is it late at night for you, or a quiet early morning? Share your moment, I'd love to know. Now, let's get you ready to relax. Find a cozy place to sit or lie down. Put on your headphones to hear every soft sound, the breeze, the horses, and the whisper of the story. Dim the lights. Maybe light a candle or keep a warm cup of tea nearby to make your space even softer. Take a deep, slow breath in and let it out gently. Are you ready to step into a world where love was slow, delicate, and oh so sweet? You think dating today is a careful dance of text messages, emojis, and swiping on screens. But step back in time and you'll find that in Victorian London, love was an even more delicate waltz. Here, a glance held more weight than a dozen conversations, and a single touch of lace could speak volumes. Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe in, slowly, and let your mind drift. You're standing on a narrow cobblestone street, the morning air cool and slightly damp, carrying the faint scent of coal fires from chimneys above. The sun is rising gently, painting the world in soft gold, its light filtering through fine mist like spun sugar. In the distance, the rhythmic clatter of horses' hooves echoes on the stones, steady and calm as a carriage rolls past. The air feels different here, thicker, quieter somehow. There is no hum of engines, no glow of screens. Instead, there are voices speaking softly, the rustle of long skirts, and the faint creak of leather boots. You're dressed in layers of smooth silk and light cotton, a shawl wrapped carefully over your shoulders, and a small parasol resting in your gloved hands. Its ivory handle is cool and smooth against your fingers, and though the sky is still pale, you carry it because it's part of a silent code. In this world, every accessory, every movement says something. As you begin to stroll, you notice that houses lining the street, tall and slender, with crisp white windows framed by lace curtains. The scent of freshly baked bread floats from a nearby shop, mingling with the sweet, powdery aroma of violets from the flower girl setting up her basket. And then, you see them. A group of gentlemen in long coats and gleaming black shoes, their top hats balanced perfectly, their hands behind their backs as they speak in low tones. One of them turns his head slightly. His eyes meet yours, just for a moment. Your heart gives a soft flutter. You quickly lower your gaze, tilting your parasol ever so slightly, as though to block the morning light. But in truth, you're hiding the faint warmth in your cheeks. Here in Victorian London, a single glance like this isn't casual, it's a ripple on still water. It means something. But rules and propriety stand like tall hedges between you. To speak without an introduction would be improper. To walk together unsupervised would spark whispers. And so the dance begins. A delicate waltz of looks and gestures, subtle and slow. The breeze picks up, carrying with it the sweet scent of lavender soap and damp earth. You hear the church bells in the distance, their chimes soft and low, wrapping the world in a gentle rhythm. As you continue walking, your thoughts drift. You've heard the stories from your aunt, haven't you? About the language of fans and the secret messages hidden in the tilt of a parasol or the drop of a glove. It sounds romantic, doesn't it? But also, it requires patience. So much patience. Perhaps that's why the city feels so calm. Here, love doesn't rush. It lingers in quiet corners, in letters written by candlelight, in eyes that meet across a crowded park. You take a slow, deep breath and let it out. Listen to the sound of your shoes tapping gently on the stones. The world here moves differently, slower, softer. There is no rush. You're approaching a wide iron gate now, opening into a public garden. Beyond it, you glimpse paths lined with trimmed hedges and wooden benches, where couples stroll, always chaperoned, always measured. The scent of roses hangs in the air, heady and sweet. Would you like to step inside, to wander under the shade of elm trees, and see how young men and women find ways to steal moments of closeness despite the watchful eyes? Take another breath. Feel your shoulders soften. There is no need to hurry. For in Victorian London, love takes its time. You step softly through the tall iron gates of the park. The hinges creak faintly as they open, but the sound is gentle, almost like a sigh. Inside, the world seems even quieter, muffled by the thick canopy of elm trees that arch gracefully overhead. Dappled sunlight falls like lace on the gravel paths, and a faint breeze stirs the leaves, carrying the sweet perfume of blooming roses and freshly cut grass. You walk slowly, your shoes crunching softly on the gravel. To your left, a young mother pushes a pram draped in fine muslin. To your right, an elderly gentleman in a dark frock coat sits on a bench reading a newspaper, his silver-rimmed spectacles catching the light. Everyone seems calm, unhurried, as though the park itself asks visitors to slow down and breathe more deeply. Further ahead, you notice a pair of young women seated on a bench, their skirts spread neatly, gloved hands folded in their laps. Their parasols are open, not for shade, but as a shield of modesty. Every so often, they glance sideways toward a group of gentlemen standing a little distance away. The men talk amongst themselves, but one or two steal careful glances back at the ladies, their postures impeccably straight, their polished boots still in the warm glow of the sun. This is how it begins in Victorian London, a slow, deliberate ritual of proximity. Each gesture, each stolen look is laden with unspoken meaning. You find yourself wandering toward a small fountain at the center of the garden. The water trickles gently, its soft murmur blending with birdsong from the branches above. You pause, here, letting your fingers trail lightly along the cool stone edge of the fountain. For a moment, you feel the weight of your own presence in this world, not as a distant observer, but as someone living this moment, breathing this air. Then you notice him, a gentleman, standing across the fountain. His coat is a deep navy, tailored perfectly to his frame. He wears pale gloves, holding them loosely in one hand. His top hat casts a soft shadow over his face, but you can sense the curiosity in his gaze. And then, there it is, again that quiet connection. Your eyes meet. Just for a second too long. He doesn't smile. That would be bold. Instead, he gives the faintest inclination of his head, almost imperceptible. A greeting, a question, a signal that he, too, has noticed you. You feel a warmth bloom in your chest, but you remind yourself, nothing happens here without care. If this meeting is meant to become something more, there must first be an introduction. Perhaps through a mutual acquaintance, perhaps arranged at a future gathering. For now, the fountain and the spring air are your chaperones. A gentle breeze brushes past, lifting the edge of your shawl. The scent of lilacs drifts by, sweet and heady. Somewhere in the distance, a clock tower chimes the hour, each note low and soothing, like the heartbeat of the city itself. You take a slow breath and let it out. In this world, even waiting feels tender. Would you like to stay here a little longer, to feel the gentle pulse of this garden and listen to the language of unspoken words? The afternoon sun lingers softly, casting golden threads of light across the garden path as you begin to walk again. Each step feels slower now, as though the air itself is coaxing you to linger in this moment. The gentleman you noticed by the fountain has turned slightly, speaking quietly to another manor friend, perhaps, or even a brother. They both glance in your direction, discreetly, politely, because, here in Victorian London, a proper introduction cannot happen by chance. It requires a bridge, someone who knows you both, someone with enough social standing to connect, to worlds without raising an eyebrow. As you stroll past a cluster of white roses climbing over a wrought iron trellis, you see her, Mrs. Pembroke, a family friend. She is seated on a bench nearby, her dress an elegant shade of sage green, her lace gloves resting neatly in her lap. She notices you immediately and beckons with a warm smile. "My dear, what a lovely surprise," she says, her voice like the gentle rustle of silk. "Do come sit with me for a moment." You settle beside her, the bench cool beneath your palms, the faint scent of lavender clinging to her shawl. She leans closer, speaking in a low, conspiratorial tone. "I see you've caught the attention of Mr. Ashcroft," she murmurs with a twinkle in her eye. "A fine young man, of good family and impeccable manners. Would you like me to make the necessary introductions?" Your heart gives a quiet flutter. In this world, such a question carries weight. To agree is to open the door just a little to the possibility of companionship, of careful conversation, of the first steps in a long and delicate dance. You nod softly, keeping your expression serene, though inside there is a ripple of anticipation. Mrs. Pembroke rises gracefully, her cane tapping lightly on the path as she makes her way toward Mr. Ashcroft. You watch as she greets him warmly, speaking a few words that you cannot hear from this distance. He listens intently, then glances your way again, a subtle smile touching his lips before he quickly schools his expression into polite reserve. Moments later, he begins to walk toward you. His pace is measured, his posture perfectly straight, every movement imbued with the quiet dignity expected of a Victorian gentleman. "Miss," he says, bowing slightly as he reaches you. His voice is low, smooth, with the faintest trace of warmth beneath the formality. "I am honored to make your acquaintance." You curtsy in response, the fabric of your skirt brushing lightly against your ankles. "The pleasure is mine." "Mr. Ashcroft," you reply softly. There is a pause, not an awkward one rather. It is the pause of a world where nothing is rushed, where silence is a gentle companion. The breeze stirs again, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming wisteria. Somewhere nearby, a blackbird sings a simple, lilting tune. "I wonder, miss," Mr. Ashcroft begins after a moment, "might I accompany you on a brief stroll around the garden, with Mrs. Pembroke's permission?" "Of course." You glance at Mrs. Pembroke, who offers an approving nod, and so it begins. A simple walk, a polite conversation, yet within it lies the thrilling possibility of more. Here, love is not sudden or loud. It is a slow unfurling, like the petals of the roses that line the path. As you take your first steps beside Mr. Ashcroft, you notice the measured distance between you, 3 or 4 inches of air, carefully maintained, and yet, in this small space, 1,000 unspoken words seem to float. The sound of gravel crunching underfoot is soothing. The air feels warmer now, richer somehow. Do you feel it? The way time slows in this moment. The way the heart listens, even when words are few. Shall we walk a little further to hear what Mr. Ashcroft might say next? You and Mr. Ashcroft begin to walk side by side, your steps falling into a slow, steady rhythm along the garden path. The gravel crunches faintly beneath your shoes, each sound gentle and deliberate, as though even the earth itself respects the quiet formality of this moment. The air smells sweet here, honeysuckle climbing over an old brick wall, mingling with the faint scent of beeswax from a nearby lantern post. A soft breeze brushes against your cheek, carrying with it the warmth of the late afternoon sun. For a few moments, neither of you speaks, but it isn't uncomfortable. This is how it begins in Victorian London. Conversation blooms slowly, like tea leaves unfurling in warm water. Finally, Mr. Ashcroft glances sideways at you carefully, not too directly, and speaks. "I trust you are enjoying the park this afternoon, miss." His voice is calm, deep, and measured, as though each word has been weighed before being offered. "Yes," you reply softly. "It is very peaceful here. The roses are especially lovely at this time of year." "They are," he agrees, his eyes flicking for just a moment to the pale pink blooms climbing over an iron archway ahead. "My mother says that roses are a symbol of admiration and grace. She keeps a garden of them at our home in Surrey." You smile faintly, keeping your gaze fixed on the path ahead. In this era, even small details of family garden, a mother's fondness for flowers carry meaning. A gentleman might offer such glimpses to show refinement, a connection to the natural world, and a sense of care for beauty. A sparrow darts across the path in front of you, startling slightly as it lands on a nearby bench. The sound of its tiny claws on the wood is almost imperceptible, yet, in the quiet of the garden, you notice even this. "I've always thought there is something restful about gardens," you say, as though they invite one to slow down, to listen more closely to the world. Double quotes. Mr. Ashcroft nods thoughtfully. "Indeed, in these hurried times, perhaps that is what we all need, more stillness." The two of you continue on in silence for a while, but it is a companionable silence. The rules of society require restraint. Here, boldness would be frowned upon. But beneath the still surface, there is a quiet current of curiosity, of mutual observation. Each step together is a tiny act of trust. As you round a corner, you see Mrs. Pembroke seated once again, her watchful eyes discreetly ensuring propriety. A pair of children run past, their laughter like tiny bells as they chase a hoop rolling down the path. "May I ask," Mr. Ashcroft begins again, his tone polite, "do you often spend time in London, or do you prefer the country?" You glance at him briefly, careful not to let the look linger too long. "I enjoy both in their own ways. London has its liveliness, but there is something soothing about the open air of the countryside." "I quite agree," he says softly. "Perhaps, one day, you might see the gardens at my family's estate. They are not so grand as these, but they have their own quiet charm." His words hang delicately in the air, not a promise, not yet, but a suggestion of possibility. In Victorian times, this is as forward as one could dare to be in such an early meeting. A clock tower chimes in the distance for soft, deep notes that seem to ripple through the warm air. The day is moving gently onward, and so too does your careful, tentative connection with the gentleman beside you. You breathe in deeply, feeling the faint scent of roses and freshly cut grass, and let it out slowly. Do you notice how calm your body feels now? How the world seems to have softened, the sounds and colors melting into something almost dreamlike? Would you like to continue walking a little further to discover how this first stroll might lead to a second meeting, and perhaps even a letter written by candlelight? Later that evening, you are back in the quiet of your room. The gas lamps glow softly, casting warm pools of light across the polished wood floor. Outside the window, the street is hushed, except for the distant sound of carriage wheels rattling over stones and the occasional soft whinny of a horse. You sit at your small writing desk, gloved hands resting lightly on the smooth oak surface. On one side, there is a little stack of cream-colored stationery and a fountain pen with an ivory handle. Though you are not yet writing, you think about what you might say should he indeed send a letter in Victorian London. Letters are not mere scraps of paper. They are threads of connection, each word chosen carefully, each phrase weighted with courtesy and meaning. To write too boldly would be scandalous. To be too reserved might seem cold. Your maid enters quietly, placing a silver tray with a small pot of tea beside you. The fragrance of chamomile rises, soft and sweet. As you lift the cup, its warmth spreads gently through your palms. You let your gaze drift to the window, watching the lamplight flicker across the dark street below. Somewhere, you imagine, Mr. Ashcroft may also be sitting at his own desk, quill in hand, debating which words to use, which turn of phrase would be proper yet kind. The next afternoon, there is a faint knock at your door. Your maid appears again, carrying a single envelope on a small silver salver. "A letter for you, miss," she says softly. The envelope is thick, its surface smooth beneath your fingertips. Your name is written in neat, elegant script. The sealer swirl of red wax, stamped with an intricate family crest, catches the light. Your breath slows. For a moment, you simply hold the envelope, feeling its faint weight, the coolness of the wax. Then, with deliberate care, you break the seal and unfold the letter. The handwriting inside is graceful, slanting slightly to the right. "Miss, it was an honor to enjoy your company yesterday in the gardens. Might I, with your permission, hope to call upon you again, perhaps another walk under the kind watch of Mrs. Pembroke, or an afternoon visit to the Botanical Conservatory?" You read the words slowly, savoring each one like a delicate confection. Though the language is formal, there is something gentle beneath it, a hint of warmth that makes your chest feel light. You place the letter down carefully, smoothing the paper with your gloved hand. Outside, the late afternoon light spills across the room like honey, and the sound of a distant church bell drifts through the air. Do you feel it? The tender unfolding of something new, the stillness of a moment where the world seems to pause and wait with you. Perhaps tomorrow you will compose your reply. But for now, breathe deeply, let your body grow heavy in the chair, and rest here a little longer in this quiet Victorian world. The next morning arrives softly, with pale sunlight streaming through your lace curtains and the faint hum of London stirring awake outside your window. You hear the gentle clatter of a milkman's cart, the distant call of a newsboy announcing the day's headlines, and the delicate flutter of sparrows gathering on the windowsill. You sit at your writing desk, once again, your fingers resting lightly on a sheet of creamy stationery. The room is quiet, except for the faint ticking of the clock on the mantel. A soft breeze drifts in, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming lilacs from the garden below. Mr. Ashcroft's letter lies open before you, its graceful words still fresh in your mind. Each phrase feels carefully chosen, respectful yet tender, leaving space for your own thoughts to take root. You pick up your fountain pen, its weight cool and smooth in your gloved hand. For a moment, you hesitate. In Victorian times, the act of replying is almost as significant as the meeting itself. Every word must be measured, every turn of phrase considered. Too eager, and you risk impropriety. Too aloof, and the connection might falter before it's begun. You dip the nib into the inkwell and let the tip hover over the page. At last, the words begin to flow in delicate loops and swirls. Asterisk, Mr. Ashcroft, I thank you for your kind note, and for the pleasure of your company in the gardens yesterday afternoon. It would indeed be agreeable to meet again under Mrs. Pembroke's gracious supervision. Perhaps the conservatory you mentioned would be a lovely place for a quiet stroll among the flowers. Asterisk, your pen moves slowly, deliberately, each word like a petal placed with care. As you write, a sense of calm spreads through you, as if time itself has slowed to match the gentle rhythm of your thoughts. You sign your name with a flourish, then set the pen down. The ink glistens faintly in the light before settling into the paper. Folding the sheet neatly, you slip it into an envelope, sealing it with a pale blue wax and the family's monogram stamp. Later, after your maid has delivered the letter, you find yourself wandering into the drawing room. The day outside is mild, the air tinged with the scent of spring rain on cobblestones. You settle into a backed armchair near the window, gazing out at the street where gentlemen tip their hats and ladies glide by in skirts that whisper against the pavement. In this quiet space, you reflect on how delicate and slow the journey of courtship is here. There are no hurried meetings, no impulsive declarations. Every step forward is as soft as a sigh, as intentional as the placement of lace on a gown. As you sit, the house grows still around you. The only sound is the faint ticking of the clock, its steady rhythm like a heartbeat. You close your eyes for a moment, letting your breath deepen, your shoulders sink. Somewhere beyond the hush of your room, a carriage wheel clinks over a loose stone, and the faint echo fades into the distance. Do you feel how peaceful it is, this world of careful gestures and unspoken hopes? Here, even waiting feels gentle, like resting between heartbeats, like floating in warm water. Perhaps soon, Mr. Ashcroft's reply will come, but for now, there is no need to rush. The day stretches out before you like a ribbon, soft and unhurried. Would you like to linger here a little longer, breathing in the quiet? Or shall we turn the page and step softly into your next meeting, among the glass walls and fragrant blooms of the Victorian conservatory? The clock ticks softly in the parlour. Each second feels stretched, slow, as if time itself is holding its breath. You sit perfectly still on the settee, gloved hands folded neatly in your lap. The polished wood floor gleams in the warm afternoon sunlight, and the faint scent of beeswax and lavender floats in the air. At last, there's a knock at the door. 3 measured taps. Your father rises, smoothing his waistcoat. The front door opens, and you hear muffled voices exchanging polite greetings. A moment later, the Weatherbys enter. Mr. Weatherby is a stout man with a ruddy face and kind eyes. Mrs. Weatherby is tall and elegant, her gown a deep burgundy trimmed with lace. And behind them, there he is, Thomas Weatherby. He steps into the room, removing his top hat and gloves. He is impeccably dressed in a dark frock coat, his posture straight, his expression calm but attentive. His brown hair is neatly combed, and as his eyes meet yours, he offers a subtle, respectful bow. "Miss," he says softly, his voice warm yet carefully measured. You rise gracefully, your skirts rustling as you curtsy. "Mr. Weatherby, it is a pleasure to meet you." You sit again, arranging your skirts precisely, aware of every movement under your mother's watchful gaze. Thomas takes a seat across from you, and for a moment the room is filled only with the soft tick of the mantel clock. Your mother breaks the silence, offering tea. Delicate porcelain cups clink gently against saucers as she pours. The air seems to grow warmer, thicker somehow, as Thomas accepts his cup with a quiet thank you. "This tea is excellent," he says after a sip, his voice even and polite. "It reminds me of the blends I encountered in India." "You've spent time in India?" You ask softly, careful to keep your tone light and curious. "For years, as a clerk for the East India Company," he replies. "It was an education in many ways, but I am glad to be home now." He smiles faintly, but it is a reserved smile, the kind appropriate for a first meeting under the watchful eyes of parents. Still, there is something in it, a glimmer of warmth that flickers and then settles like an ember in your chest. The conversation continues in this delicate manner, weaving through safe topics: the weather, London's bustling streets, a recent piano recital at the Royal Opera House. You speak carefully, balancing intelligence with modesty, aware that every word contributes to the picture Thomas is forming of you. And all the while, a quiet tension hums beneath the surface, not unpleasant, but like the faint vibration of a harp string, waiting to be plucked. As the visit draws to a close, Thomas stands and bows again. "Miss, I thank you for your time today," he says. "With your father's permission, I would be honored to call again." Your father gives a slight nod, and your mother smiles approvingly. You incline your head, speaking softly. "That would be most welcome, Mr. Weatherby." He takes a small step back, careful not to come too close. Even now, propriety dictates distance. But his eyes linger on yours for a heartbeat longer than is strictly necessary, and then he is gone, the door closing behind him with a soft click. You exhale slowly, realizing only now how tightly you had been holding your breath. The first meeting is over, and with it comes the faintest stirring of hope. As the house grows quiet again, you remain seated on the settee, staring at the delicate flowers in the vase by the window. A breeze stirs the curtains, carrying the distant sounds of Londoner, horses' hooves clattering on cobblestones, the faint cry of a street vendor, and the far-off chime of a church bell marking the hour. Here, in this stillness, the Victorian world feels almost dreamlike, as if suspended in time. The next morning arrives wrapped in soft grey mist, the kind that clings to the windows and muffles the sounds of the city. You wake slowly, the weight of your quilts pressing gently against your chest, and for a moment you linger there, eyes half closed, listening to the distant clop of horses' hooves on wet cobblestones outside. The events of the previous afternoon return to you in quiet waves. Thomas Weatherby's careful words, his reserved smile, the way his eyes lingered on yours for just an extra breath. In this world of strict etiquette and unspoken rules, even such small gestures feel momentous. A knock at your door. Mary enters with her usual quiet efficiency, carrying a small silver tray. On it lies a folded envelope, the cream paper smooth, an elegant sealed with a swirl of red wax. "A letter for you," Miss Mary says softly, her eyes bright with curiosity though her tone remains carefully neutral. You sit up, fingers tingling as you take the letter. The seal is warm from her hands, and you pause a moment, savoring the faint scent of ink and paper, before breaking it carefully. The handwriting is unmistakably Thomas's, graceful, deliberate, slightly slanted. Miss, I wish to express my thanks once again for the warm welcome I received yesterday. Might I, with your family's permission, hope to escort you to the Botanical Gardens this coming Thursday afternoon? It would be an honor to enjoy a quiet stroll among the flowers, under the kind watch of Mrs. Pembroke or another suitable chaperone. Respectfully, T. Weatherby. Your heart gives a quiet flutter. A walk in the gardens. Such an ordinary request, by modern standards, and yet here, in 1855, it carries great significance. To accept would be to take another careful step forward in this intricate waltz of courtship. You set the letter down gently and inhale deeply. The air smells faintly of beeswax polish and lavender water. The sense of a household coming to life for the day later. You sit once again at your writing desk, a fresh sheet of stationery before you. The pen in your hand feels cool and smooth, its weight familiar and grounding. You dip the nib into ink, letting a single drop fall onto the page before beginning your reply. Mr. Weatherby, I thank you for your kind note and for the pleasant conversation we shared yesterday afternoon. I would be pleased to accept your invitation to the Botanical Gardens on Thursday, provided Mrs. Pembroke is able to accompany us. I look forward to enjoying the beauty of the gardens in such esteemed company. Sincerely, your name. The words are simple, proper, and carefully chosen. You blot the ink gently, then fold the letter and seal it with your family's monogram in pale blue wax. As you hand the envelope to the maid for delivery, you feel a faint ripple of anticipation beneath your calm exterior. The days pass slowly, each one a measured rhythm of small tasks, needlework by the parlor window, practicing a gentle sonata on the piano, and short walks round the garden with your mother. Each evening, the golden light fades to dusk as the smell of coal smoke drifts lazily through the streets. At last, Thursday arrives. You rise early, your body tingling with quiet excitement as Mary helps you dress. Today, you wear a pale lilac day dress with delicate lace at the cuffs and a matching bonnet tied beneath your chin. The air outside is crisp, but not cold. The faint scent of spring blossoms drifting through the open window. As the clock chimes 2, a carriage arrives at your door. Through the lace curtains, you glimpse Thomas alighting, his figure straight and elegant in his navy coat. He pauses to hand his hat and gloves to the footman before turning toward the house, his expression calm but purposeful. Your mother watches discreetly as you descend the stairs. She nods once, approvingly, and gives you a gentle squeeze of the hand before stepping aside. Mrs. Pembroke is waiting in the parlor, her walking stick in hand and a knowing smile on her face. "Shall we, my dear?" she says softly. And so you step into the bright afternoon, the soft sound of your shoes on the stone path mingling with the distant hum of carriage wheels and the sweet trill of birdsong. This is not merely a walk. This is another careful step in the dance. Each glance, each word, a thread in the tapestry, slowly forming between you and Thomas. The carriage rattles gently along the cobbled streets, each wheel turn sending a soft vibration through the plush seat beneath you. Through the window, the world passes in shades of soft green and warm brick. The air outside still touched by the freshness of early spring. You glance discreetly at Thomas seated opposite you. His posture is straight, but not rigid, his gloved hands resting lightly on his knees. The faint scent of sandalwood clings to his coat, and for a moment you let yourself notice it. Breathing just a little deeper, Mrs. Pembroke is beside you, her presence a constant, calming reminder of propriety. She hums softly under her breath, peering out the window as the carriage rounds a corner and slows. "There we are," she murmurs. "The botanical gardens." The carriage door opens, and Thomas steps out first, offering a gloved hand to help you descend. His touch is light, fleeting just enough to steady you as your boots meet the gravel path. The gardens rise before you, enclosed in a grand glass conservatory. Sunlight glints off the curved panes, and inside, a riot of greenery beckons. You step through the doors, and the air changes, instantly warm, moist, rich with the mingled scents of earth, blossoms, and something faintly citrus. It feels like stepping into another world. Thomas offers you his arm, and with a nod from Mrs. Pembroke, you place your hand lightly atop his sleeve. Even this slight contact is a carefully weighed act, permissible only because of the chaperone's watchful presence. "Do you enjoy plants, miss?" Thomas asks quietly as you begin walking along a narrow path bordered by ferns and orchids. "Yes," you reply softly. "I find there is a peace in gardens that one rarely finds elsewhere." He nods, his expression thoughtful. "They remind us, I think, that the most beautiful things take time to grow." You glance at him, the corners of your lips lifting in the faintest smile. "That is very true, Mr. Weatherby." As you walk, the sounds of the world outside fall away. Here, there is only the rustle of palm fronds as the warm air moves through the glass house, the delicate patter of water dripping from a fountain, and the faint creak of the wooden walkway beneath your feet. Occasionally, Thomas points out a particularly striking bloomer, white orchid like a star, a rose as deep crimson as a drop of ink. Each time, he speaks gently, never rushing his words, and you feel the measured care in his manner. In this age, such a walk is as close to intimacy as you may come. Every glance, every question and answer is a thread weaving the two of you closer, though still with careful space between. "Miss," Thomas says after a long pause, his voice lower now, "I wish to say, I am grateful for this opportunity to speak with you. It is not easy to convey one's intentions within the confines of society's expectations. You feel a warmth rise to your cheeks, but keep your gaze serene. I understand, Mr. Weatherby, and I am grateful for your kindness and consideration." You both fall quiet again, the air around you thick with unspoken thoughts. Above, sunlight filters through the glass, turning the air golden and warm. A bird flits through the rafters, its wings whispering like a soft sigh. Time slows here. Your breath deepens. The world outside the conservatory feels very far away. The carriage ride home is quiet, but it's not the heavy, uncomfortable silence of strangers. Instead, it's a stillness that feels soft like the hush of a library or the muted calm after a summer rain. You sit with your hands folded neatly in your lap, the scent of the conservatory still clinging to your gloves' warm earth, damp moss, and the faint sweetness of exotic blooms. Thomas sits across from you, his gaze resting momentarily on the passing streets outside the window. He doesn't speak, yet there's a gentle air about him, as though he too is turning over the memories of your walk among the orchids and ferns. Mrs. Pembroke clears her throat lightly, breaking the spell. "It has been a very pleasant afternoon," she says warmly. The gardens are always at their finest in spring. Yes, Thomas agrees softly, his voice steady, and I am most grateful for the company. His eyes meet yours for a heartbeat, just long enough for you to sense a sincerity there, a flicker of thoughtfulness beneath the carefully polished surface expected of a Victorian gentleman. You lower your gaze modestly, feeling the faintest warmth in your cheeks. When the carriage draws up before your home, Thomas steps out first and offers you his hand once again. This time, his touch lingers a fraction longer, just long enough for you to notice the quiet strength in his fingers before he releases you. "Miss," he says softly, bowing slightly, "I trust you enjoyed the gardens as much as I did." "I did, Mr. Weatherby," you reply, your voice calm but warm. "Thank you for a most agreeable afternoon." He inclines his head, then straightens. "I shall not impose further upon your time. With your family's permission, I would hope to call again." You offer a polite smile. "We would be glad to receive you." As Thomas turns and steps back into the carriage, you feel the faintest ripple of anticipation stir within you. It's not yet affection, not quite, but it is the seed of something tender, planted carefully in the rich soil of shared moments and polite restraint. Later that evening, you sit by the window in your room. The house has grown quiet. Even the sounds of the street outside, horses, wheels, distant voices, have faded to a low murmur. The gaslight casts a soft golden glow over your writing desk, where a fresh sheet of paper lies waiting. You trace your finger over its smooth surface, thinking about how Victorian courtship is built, not on grand declarations, but on slow, careful steps. A conversation in the garden, a polite letter, a shared glance that carries more weight than 1,000 words. The air smells faintly of beeswax and lavender water. From somewhere far off, the church bells chime softly, their tones deep and soothing as they fade into the night. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing deeply in this world. Nothing is hurried. Affection unfolds gently, like a rose opening to the first light of dawn. The morning sunlight filters gently through the lace curtains, scattering delicate patterns across your bedroom floor. The house is still, save for the faint sound of Mary moving about downstairs, the soft clang of a kettle as she prepares tea. You sit at your writing desk, staring out the window at the quiet street below. A milk cart rolls slowly past, the horses' hooves clopping in a steady rhythm. Two young children skip along the pavement, their laughter ringing faintly in the cool air. And then you hear the creak of the front door, the soft murmur of voices, and the light tread of your mother's shoes as she climbs the stairs. Moments later, she appears in your doorway, an envelope in her hand. "A letter for you, my dear," she says softly, a faint smile playing on her lips. You take it carefully, fingers brushing over the smooth, cream-colored paper. The wax seal is pale blue this time, stamped with the Weatherby crest. Your heart gives a tiny flutter as you break it open. The handwriting is familiar, now elegant and deliberate, each loop and line perfectly formed. Asterisk, miss, I hope this note finds you in good health and spirits. I wish to thank you again for the pleasure of your company at the Botanical Gardens. Our conversation lingers in my mind, and I find myself looking forward to the prospect of another meeting. With your family's permission, might I hope to call on you this coming Tuesday afternoon? I would be honored to accompany you on a carriage ride through Hyde Park, should the weather permit. Yours with sincere respect, T. Weatherby. Asterisk. You fold the letter carefully, setting it down on the polished wood of your desk. A carriage ride in Hyde Park. It's a step forward in this delicate dance, a sign that Thomas's interest is growing stronger, more certain. And if you are honest with yourself, your own heart has begun to lean gently in his direction as, well, you'll spend the rest of the morning preparing your reply, choosing each word with care. The pen glides smoothly over the paper as you write. Asterisk, Mr. Weatherby, I thank you for your kind letter. Tuesday afternoon would suit perfectly, and I look forward to enjoying the beauty of Hyde Park in such esteemed company. Yours sincerely. Your name, asterisk. The ink dries slowly in the cool air as you sit back, the faint scent of lavender drifting from the linen pressed beneath your elbows. The days pass with a quiet rhythm as Tuesday draws nearer. In the evenings, you practice light conversation with your mother, discussing books, music, and the latest exhibitions at the Royal Academy. These small rehearsals are part of a young lady's preparation for courtship, ensuring that when you speak with Thomas again, you will strike the perfect balance between intelligence and modesty. On the morning of the meeting, you awaken early. The air is crisp and clear, and sunlight dances across the polished wood floor as Mary helps you into a pale cream day dress trimmed with delicate embroidery. She arranges your hair with quiet precision, pinning each curl until it frames your face just so. When the carriage arrives, you catch a glimpse of Thomas waiting at the foot of the steps. He stands straight and poised, yet there is a softness to his expression that makes your pulse quicken ever so slightly. You descend the stairs slowly, each step measured, your skirts whispering over the polished wood. Outside, the air smells faintly of lilac and freshly turned earth, a sign that spring has truly arrived. Thomas greets you with a bow, his voice low and warm. Miss, it is a pleasure to see you again. The pleasure is mine, Mr. Weatherby, you reply softly, as he offers his arm to help you into the carriage. The brief touch of his hand sends a ripple of warmth through you, and as the carriage sets off toward Hyde Park, the gentle sway of its motion and the rhythmic sound of the horses' hooves seem to pull you both deeper into this quiet, blossoming connection. The carriage rolls smoothly along the tree-lined avenue, its wheels humming softly over the cobblestones before they give way to the packed dirt paths of Hyde Park. Outside the window, London's bustle seems to fade. The air here feels lighter, cleaner, carrying the faint scent of cut grass and horse chestnut blossoms. Inside the carriage, all is still but for the gentle sway of its movement and the quiet creak of the leather seat beneath you. Thomas sits opposite, his hands resting neatly on his knees, gloved fingers interlaced. He looks at you with calm attention, his expression composed yet softer now than it was in your earlier meetings. You've visited Hyde Park often, Miss? He asks, his voice low, warm, and carefully measured. You shake your head slightly, a polite smile touching your lips. Not often. My family prefers the quieter gardens. But I have heard Hyde Park is very beautiful in the spring. It is, Thomas says, glancing out the window for a moment. My mother used to bring my sister here every Sunday. The Serpentine has a charm of its own, so still on some days that the water seems to hold the sky like a mirror. The image lingers in your mind as you let your eyes drift to the passing scenery. Sunlight filters through budding leaves, dappling the path with soft patterns of gold and green. Gentle breezes stir the air, carrying the faint sound of laughter from a group of children rolling hoops along the grass. For a few moments, you both sit in companionable silence. In the Victorian world, such pauses are not unusual. They are the spaces in which quiet understanding grows. Thomas clears his throat softly, Miss, may I say? He hesitates just enough for the words to feel significant. I have found our conversations most agreeable. In truth, they have been the brightest moments in recent weeks. You feel warmth rise gently in your cheeks, though you keep your gaze modestly lowered. Thank you, Mr. Weatherby. That is very kind of you to say. The carriage slows as it approaches the edge of the serpentine. The driver pulls gently on the reins, and the horses snort softly, their hooves clipping over the gravel path as the carriage comes to a halt. Thomas rises and steps down first, offering his hand to you. As you take it lightly, properly, as etiquette demands, you feel the faint pressure of his fingers, steady and warm even through the fabric of your glove. Would you care to walk a little? He asks. I would like that very much, you reply softly. The two of you stroll along the edge of the water, Mrs. Pembroke following a few paces behind. The sky above is pale blue, streaked with high feathery clouds. Ducks paddle lazily in the shallows, sending ripples out across the glassy surface. The conversation flows gently. Books, music, the arrival of spring. There is a new ease to Thomas's tone now, and you sense that he is beginning to let you see something of the man beneath the polished exterior. Do you enjoy music, miss? He asks. Yes, you reply, though I admit I play only a little. The pianoforte, mostly. A fine instrument, he says. My sister plays as well. I confess, I envy anyone with the patience to master such a skill. You speak as though patience is not among your qualities, you say, allowing yourself a very slight, teasing smile. His lips twitch with the beginnings of a smile, quickly schooled into propriety. I strive for it, miss, though I suspect my sister might say otherwise. The walk is unhurried, every step measured. The world around you seems to soften, the sunlight warmer now, the breeze gentler, the air filled with the faint scent of water and earth awakening after winter. And though the space between you remains proper, never closer than etiquette allows, you sense something quiet and tender beginning to take root in the hush. Do you feel it, that faint but unmistakable stirring of possibility, the slow bloom of affection in a world where even a shared glance can speak volumes? The path curves gently away from the serpentine, leading you beneath a canopy of tall elms whose branches are just beginning to unfurl their fresh, spring-green leaves. The air here feels hushed, as though even the birdsong has softened to a gentle murmur. You and Thomas walk at an unhurried pace, the crunch of gravel underfoot punctuating the pauses in your conversation. Mrs. Pembroke follows discreetly a few steps behind, her cane tapping lightly against the path. I wonder, miss, Thomas begins, his voice low but carrying a note of curiosity. Have you ever sketched? Only a little, you reply, glancing briefly at him. Mostly flowers from our garden. I am hardly skilled. I would very much like to see them one day, he says, and though his tone is perfectly polite, there is the faintest warmth in it now, as though the words carry more than just casual interest. You allow yourself the smallest smile, perhaps, if ever the opportunity arose. The breeze lifts a loose tendril of hair near your cheek, and you resist the urge to smooth it back, mindful of propriety. Instead, you fold your hands gently at your waist and continue walking as the path opens into a wider clearing. A marble bench comes into view beneath an arched trellis woven with climbing roses. Though the blooms are still tightly furled, their faint fragrance lingers in the air, sweet and green. Thomas gestures lightly toward the bench. Would you care to sit for a moment? If Mrs. Pembroke does not object, you reply softly. The older woman smiles warmly. Not at all, my dear. A short rest would do us all good. You settle onto the cool marble, your skirts rustling softly as you arrange them. Thomas remains standing for a moment before taking his seat at a respectful distance. His posture straight, hands resting on his knees. The sunlight falls through the lattice above, patterning the ground with dappled shadows that sway gently in the breeze. For a few moments, no one speaks. The silence is not heavy. It feels like a shared breath, a stillness that invites reflection. I am aware, Miss Thomas says quietly at last, that in these early days of acquaintance, words must be chosen with care. But if I may, he pauses, glancing down at his gloves before continuing. I find myself very much anticipating these moments with you. They are rare and very welcome. Your heart gives a soft, steady flutter. Though his words are restrained, they carry an unmistakable sincerity, a glimpse of feeling carefully wrapped in the language of his time. That is kind of you to say, Mr. Weatherby, you reply gently. I too have found our conversations most agreeable. From behind you, a soft breeze stirs the trellis vines, and the faint scent of roses deepens. A sparrow alights on the edge of the bench, its tiny claws clicking faintly on the stone before it flits away again. In this quiet, time feels slower, stretched thin like warm honey. Every glance, every softly spoken word seems amplified in the stillness. And though the space between you and Thomas remains proper, you sense something shifting, a subtle closeness, a thread of mutual regard drawing taut. The church bells in the distance chime the hour, their deep, resonant tones drifting on the breeze. It is time to return. Thomas stands first, offering you his hand to rise. The touch is brief, light as always, but for a moment you feel the warmth of his palm even through your glove. As you make your way back toward the waiting carriage, you sense that this careful dance is no longer just politeness or obligation. It is becoming something more, a delicate connection, fragile but growing stronger with each meeting. The evening settles over London like a soft woolen shawl, dimming the world outside your window. Gaslight flickers along the street below, pools of warm yellow that glow faintly in the misty air. Inside your room, the fire burns low in the grate, casting gentle shadows that stretch and sway across the walls. You sit quietly at your writing desk, fingers tracing the edges of the latest letter resting before you. Its cream paper is smooth, the red wax seal slightly smudged where it was broken. You've read it twice already, though the words still seem to echo in your mind. Thomas's tone is different this time, still polite, still careful, but warmer, somehow more deliberate. Miss, it has been a privilege to enjoy your company on our recent walks. These moments have brought me a sense of peace I had not expected to find, and I find myself thinking of you often in the quiet hours of the day. With your family's blessing, I would wish to enter into a more formal courtship. It is my sincere hope to better know your heart and mind, and to offer in return the steadiness of my own intentions. Yours, with great respect, T. Weatherby. The words feel heavier than those in his earlier letters, not in a burdensome way, but like a promise carefully laid down. This is no longer a series of polite meetings in gardens and parlors. This is a step forward into something more serious, more certain. You fold the letter carefully and set it aside, drawing in a slow breath. Across the room, Mary moves quietly, laying out your evening gown and straightening your gloves. She glances at you but does not speak, sensing that you are deep in thought. a formal courtship. It is what your parents hoped for, what society expects, and yet, beneath all the layers of propriety and careful etiquette, you feel a small warmth blooming in your chest. You reach for your pen. The nib scratches softly against the paper as you begin your reply, the sound almost like a whisper in the stillness of the room. Mr. Weatherby, I thank you for your kind and thoughtful words. With the permission of my parents, I would be glad to continue our acquaintance in the manner you suggest. It is my hope, as well, that our meetings may lead to a deeper understanding of one another. Yours sincerely, your name *. The days that follow pass in a calm rhythm. Your mother oversees the details of this new arrangement with quiet satisfaction, and you begin to notice small changes in Thomas's letters. His words, though still proper, carry a hint of softness now, a sense of familiarity that wasn't there before. You find yourself looking forward to his visits, not only because they fulfill your duty as a young lady of standing, but because you've begun to enjoy the steady calm of his presence. The way his conversation lingers in your thoughts long after he has gone. On the day of your next meeting, the sun is pale but warm, and the scent of lilac drifts through the open window as you prepare. Mary fastens the tiny buttons of your cream muslin dress, her fingers deft and sure. There, she murmurs, perfect, miss. You glance at yourself in the mirror. The reflection shows a young woman, composed, modest, every detail of her appearance carefully arranged. But beneath that calm exterior, your heart gives a quiet, steady flutter. When Thomas arrives, his bow is slightly deeper than usual, his voice warm as he greets you. Miss, it is very good to see you. And you, Mr. Weatherby, you reply softly as you step into the spring afternoon together. You sense it again, that quiet thread between you, growing stronger with every shared word, every careful step. The courtship begins with a rhythm, so soft and deliberate it almost feels like a waltz. Each meeting, each conversation, another step in a carefully choreographed dance. On Tuesday afternoons, Thomas calls at your home. His arrival is always the same. The low rumble of carriage wheels outside, the crisp knock at the door, and the quiet rustle of your mother's skirts as she ushers him into the front parlour. He greets you with a polite bow. Miss, it is a pleasure to see you again. Each time, the words are familiar, but there is something warmer behind them now. A softness in his tone that wasn't there before. You curtsy, your voice calm but light. The pleasure is mine, Mr. Weatherby. The visits are always chaperoned, of course. Your mother sits nearby with her needlework, eyes lowered but ears attentive. Sometimes she exchanges quiet pleasantries with Thomas, asking after his mother's health or his plans for the summer, but mostly she leaves space for the two of you to talk. You speak of many things. Of books. Thomas shares his fondness for travel journals, recounting with quiet amusement the adventures of men who wandered jungles and deserts far from the polite parlours of London. I fear I lack the constitution for such journeys, he says with a small smile, but I enjoy reading of them all the same. And do you never wish to travel again? You ask, gently. Perhaps, he says, his gaze steady. But only if there were a reasoner, companion, to make the journey worthwhile. Your cheeks warm slightly, but you keep your expression composed. Sometimes you speak of music. One afternoon, at your mother's suggestion, you play a short piece on the pianoforte while Thomas listens attentively. When the final note fades, he inclines his head. You play beautifully, miss. The music suits you. It is a simple piece, you reply softly, lowering your eyes. but inside there is a small bloom of pleasure at the compliment. On Thursday mornings, there are walks in the park, always accompanied by your mother or Mrs. Pembroke, always with that careful distance between you, and yet there are moments when the breeze carries Thomas's voice a little closer, or your gloved fingers brush ever so lightly against his arm as you step over a root in the path. Even these small touches feel charged with meaning. "I do hope," Thomas says one day as you pause to admire a bed of blooming tulips, "that our acquaintance has been agreeable for you." "It has, Mr. Weatherby," you say, your voice low but certain. "Most agreeable, indeed." He smiles then, not the reserved, polite smile of a gentleman in society, but something softer, almost boyish. Home. Your mother watches these developments with quiet satisfaction. "He seems a steady young man," she says one evening as she helps you unpin your hair, "not prone to flights of fancy. A good match for you, I think." You nod, though you keep your thoughts to yourself. There is a steadiness in Thomas that you have come to value, but there is also a gentleness, a kindness, that makes you feel seen. The weeks slip by like pages in a well-loved book, and with each meeting, the connection between you and Thomas grows deeper. Still, everything remains within the bounds of propriety. No letters, beyond polite notes, no unchaperoned moments, no confessions of feeling. And yet, there is something in the way he looks at you sometimes, a quiet intensity that speaks of emotions held carefully in check. Do you feel it too? The slow, sweet pull of a bond deepening day by day, like a flower turning gently toward the sun. The days have grown longer now. The pale golden light of late spring lingers well into the evening, casting soft shadows across the drawing room as you sit with your embroidery in hand. Outside, the faint chirp of birds and the distant clip-clop of carriage wheels drift through the open window, mingling with the sweet scent of lilacs carried on the breeze. Your mother is seated nearby, her hands moving deftly as she mends a lace cuff. She glances up when she hears footsteps in the corridor. A moment later, Mary appears with a folded note on a small silver tray. "A letter, miss," she says softly. "From Mr. Weatherby." You set aside your embroidery and take the note. The wax seal is his usual blue, but something about the weight of the envelope feels different. You break the seal carefully and unfold the thick, cream-colored paper. "Miss, it has been an honor to call upon you these past weeks. Our conversations have been among the most pleasant and meaningful moments of my life. With your family's blessing, I would be most grateful for the opportunity to speak with you in private within the bounds of propriety. Of course, to express certain thoughts I feel cannot be properly conveyed in writing. Respectfully, and with the highest regard, T. Weatherby *. Your breath catches slightly as you read the words again. In the strict codes of Victorian society, such a request is rare and significant. A private conversation, carefully supervised, yes, but one in which hearts may be spoken more plainly. Your mother notices the faint flush in your cheeks and smiles knowingly. "Shall I write to him and arrange it, my dear?" she asks gently. You nod, folding the letter carefully. "Yes, Mama, please." The day of the meeting arrives with warm sunshine and a light breeze that carries the scent of roses from the garden. You dress with care in a soft ivory gown, your hands steady though your heart flutters like a caged bird. When Thomas arrives, his expression is calm but intent. He greets your parents respectfully and exchanges polite words with your mother before she gestures discreetly to the small sunlit sitting room at the back of the house. "You may speak there," she says, her voice kind but firm. "The door will remain open, and I will be nearby. Thomas waits for you to enter first, then follows, his steps measured and deliberate. The room smells faintly of beeswax and roses, the air warm from the sunlight streaming through the tall windows. He stands for a moment, his gloved hands clasped lightly before him. When he speaks, his voice is soft, steady, but carrying a quiet intensity. "Miss," he begins, "please forgive the boldness of my request, but I find I can no longer be content to speak only of the weather and books and music, pleasant though those topics are." You fold your hands gently in your lap, your gaze lowered in modesty, though your heart beats quickly. "I have come to think of you often," he continues, "not as a mere acquaintance, but as someone whose presence I greatly value. I would be honored beyond measure if you would consider allowing me to court you with the intention of marriage." For a moment, the only sound in the room is the faint rustle of leaves outside the window. You lift your gaze to meet his. His eyes hold yours steadily, not demanding, not assuming, but open and sincere. "Mr. Weatherby," you say softly, "I thank you for your kind words. It would be my privilege to continue this acquaintance with such an intention in mind." The faintest smile touches his lips, quickly schooled into propriety, but warm enough to send a flutter through your chest. The weeks that follow unfold like the slow turning of a music box each visit, each quiet conversation adding another soft note to the melody of your life. Now that your courtship with Thomas is official, there is a new sense of ease between you. Still, the rituals remain. Chaperoned meetings, carefully timed visits, and conversations spoken in gentle tones. Yet beneath it all is an undercurrent of warmth that feels entirely your own. On Tuesdays, Thomas calls at precisely 3 o'clock. You hear the sound of carriage wheels crunching over gravel, then the crisp knock at the door. As always, he is impeccably dressed, his navy frock coat brushed clean, his gloves pale and smooth, his hat held respectfully in hand. But now, when his eyes meet yours, there is a faint flicker of something deeper, fondness perhaps, or admiration, carefully held in check. "Miss," he says, softly, as you curtsy. "Mr. Weatherby," you reply with a small smile. The two of you sit in the drawing room, your mother nearby, with her needlework. She never interrupts, but remains present, her quiet gaze ensuring propriety is observed. Thomas inquires after your health, the state of your father's business, and the progress of your latest embroidery. Then, gradually, the conversation begins to drift into more personal territory. "Do you enjoy poetry, miss?" he asks one afternoon, his voice low and thoughtful. "Yes," you say softly. "I find it calming. I often read in the evenings before bed." "Do you have a favorite poet?" "Wordsworth, perhaps," you reply. His verses seem to hold a certain stillness, like sunlight on water. Thomas nods. "A fine choice. May I bring you a small volume of his works on my next visit?" You glance briefly at your mother. She gives a nearly imperceptible nod. "That would be most kind, Mr. Weatherby. On Thursdays, there are walks in the park, always accompanied by a chaperone, always measured and proper." But now, when Thomas offers you his arm, you feel a subtle change in the way his elbow stiffens slightly beneath your hand, as if he is conscious of your touch. The two of you stroll beneath trees heavy with new leaves, the air sweet with the scent of lilacs and damp earth. Birds flit overhead, their songs weaving a gentle counterpoint to your quiet conversation. "You have a very calm way of speaking," you remark one day. Thomas smiles faintly. "I fear it is simply the result of careful schooling, miss. But I am glad if it pleases you. It does, you say softly. At home, your mother begins to speak more openly of the future. She advises you on the art of managing a household, of balancing dignity with warmth in your dealings with servants, and of maintaining the quiet grace expected of a wife in society. Her words are practical, but you can see the quiet relief in her eyes. An honorable match for her daughter is no small comfort, and as for you, there is a tenderness in your chest now when you think of Thomas. It is not a sudden passion, not the wild, headlong love of novels, but something quieter and steadier, like embers glowing in the hearth, warm and enduring. Do you feel it? This world where love grows not in leaps and bounds, but in patient steps and careful words, where every glance and gesture carries the weight of intention. The late afternoon sunlight spills through the drawing-room windows, casting long golden stripes across the polished wood floor. A faint breeze stirs the lace curtains, carrying with it the sweet scent of roses from the garden. You're seated on the settee, hands folded neatly in your lap. Across from you, Thomas sits straight-backed in a backed chair, his gloved hands resting lightly atop his cane. Your mother occupies her usual place nearby, her needle moving rhythmically through pale linen, though her presence feels more like a gentle shadow than a barrier. The conversation drifts easily now, no longer confined to polite formalities. Thomas asks after your piano practice, and you inquire about his sister's health. There are small smiles shared, little silences that feel less like absence and more like a quiet understanding. But then you notice it's something in Thomas's expression. His eyes hold yours a fraction longer than propriety strictly permits, and when he clears his throat, it's with a touch more gravity than before. Miss, he begins softly, his voice lower than usual. You tilt your head slightly, your fingers tightening gently around the folds of your handkerchief. Yes, Mr. Weatherby. He hesitates, as though carefully selecting each word from a vast, invisible library of phrases. I hope you will forgive my frankness, but I feel it would be remiss of me to let another meeting pass without speaking plainly. The air in the room seems to shift, growing warmer. Even your mother's needle stills for a moment, though her gaze remains cast downward. Thomas leans forward slightly, not enough to break the delicate bubble of distance between you, but enough that his quiet sincerity feels almost tangible. Miss, in these past weeks, I have come to think most highly of you. Your kindness, your composure, your thoughtful words, they have left a deep impression upon me. He pauses, his jaw tightening faintly before he continues. It would be my greatest honor if you might regard me with a similar affection, and, if it pleases you, I would ask permission, in time, to seek your hand in marriage. Your breath catches, though outwardly you remain composed, as you have been taught all your life. Inside, however, a gentle warmth blooms in your chest, unexpected yet comforting, like stepping from a cool hallway into a sunlit room. You lower your eyes modestly, the faintest curve touching your lips. Mr. Weatherby, I am most grateful for your kind words, and I will admit. You lift your gaze slightly, meeting his eyes. I have come to regard you with no small measure of affection myself. The faintest smile crosses Thomas's face, not the polished, practiced expression of society, but something softer, warmer, that he quickly reins in with a subtle exhale. Your mother clears her throat gently, her voice calm but tinged with quiet approval. Perhaps, Mr. Weatherby, you might speak further with my husband regarding your intentions. Of course, Madam Thomas replies, rising smoothly to his feet and inclining his head respectfully. "I thank you, miss," he says, softly, his eyes lingering on yours for one brief, unguarded moment. "You have given me great happiness today." As he departs, the air in the room feels changed, somehow still and bright, like the hush after a church bell's final chime. You sit quietly, letting the moment settle over you like a warm shawl, and feel, for the first time, the quiet certainty that your life is about to turn a new page. The next morning, the house seems unusually still. Even the familiar sounds, the soft sweep of Mary's broom across the hall, the muted clink of china in the kitchen feel muffled, as though the walls themselves are holding their breath. You sit by the parlor window, your hands resting lightly on your lap, watching the sunlight spill across the garden. The roses are just beginning to open, their petals pale and tender, releasing a faint perfume that drifts in through the open sash. Your father has invited Thomas to speak with him in his study. The door has been closed for nearly half an hour now, and though you know better than to pace, your mind drifts to the quiet voices murmuring behind that polished oak door. In Victorian London, such conversations are never rushed. There are matters of honor and family, of dowries and expectations, of futures to be carefully weighed. Thomas will be expected to speak plainly of his intentions, to assure your father of his ability to provide, of his respect for you and your family name, and your father, for his part, will listen with a measured gaze, weighing every word as though it were a coin in his hand. You draw in a slow breath, trying to still the quiet fluttering in your chest. On the small table beside you, a single letter from Thomas rests neatly folded, its seal carefully broken. Miss, I hope you will forgive the liberty of these words, written on the eve of what I hope may be a joyful new chapter for us both. Should your father look kindly upon my request, it would be my life's honor to offer you not only a home and name, but a steadfast heart and every care within my power. With the utmost respect, T. Weatherby. Even now, reading the words again sends a ripple of warmth through you, gentle but deep, like the low hum of a cello in a quiet hall. At last, the sound of the study door opening breaks the stillness. Your father steps into the hall, his face composed, his hands folded neatly behind his back. "Your presence is requested, my dear," he says, softly. You rise carefully, smoothing your skirts, and follow him into the study. The room smells faintly of leather and pipe smoke, the air warm from the morning sun streaming through tall windows. Thomas stands by the hearth, his posture straight, his expression calm but tinged with something softer relief, perhaps, or quiet anticipation. When you enter, he inclines his head respectfully. Miss, you curtsy gracefully, your voice low but steady. "Mr. Weatherby." Your father clears his throat. "Mr. Weatherby has expressed his desire to court you formally, with the intention of marriage. I find his proposal satisfactory and his character sound. I leave it to you, my dear, to consider his request." The words are simple, yet they seem to hang in the air like golden light. You feel the faint weight of every glance, every conversation, every letter that has led to this moment, and then, softly, you speak. "Father, I would be most glad to accept Mr. Weatherby's proposal." Thomas exhales slowly, and though his composure does not falter, you catch the faintest glimmer of emotion in his eyes. The study falls silent for a moment. Even the ticking of the mantel clock seems to pause as the weight of this new beginning settles gently over the room. The word "engaged" feels almost unreal as it lingers in your mind. Though nothing in your daily routine has changed, not yet, there's a quiet shift beneath the surface. like the first warmth of spring stirring in the soil before any buds appear. Your mother has already begun speaking with Mrs. Weatherby about arrangements. Nothing is decided outright. Of course, everything must be approached with deliberation. Each detail weighed carefully to preserve propriety and the family's reputation. But even with all the talk of guest lists, dowries, and invitations, there is a softness in the air now, a sense that the future is quietly unfolding before you. On Thursday afternoon, Thomas calls again. This time, there is a subtle difference in his manner, still the same careful composure, but with a warmth that feels steadier, as though the uncertainty of earlier weeks has melted away. Misty says, gently as you meet him in the drawing room. I trust this day finds you well. Very well, Mr. Weatherby, you reply, the faintest smile touching your lips. Your mother and Mrs. Pembroke exchange approving glances, before retreating discreetly to the far side of the room. They remain present. Of course, two proper chaperones are never absent, but they know when to give space for a young couple to speak. Thomas sits opposite you, his gloved hands resting lightly on his knees. For a moment, he studies the pattern of sunlight on the carpet, as though gathering his thoughts. When I wrote to you last, he begins softly, I spoke of my intention to offer you not only a home and name, but also a steadfast heart. I would like to say here, in person, that this promise is not made lightly. You lower your gaze modestly, but inside, you feel the quiet stirrings of affection growing stronger. I believe, he continues, that marriage is not only a union of duty, but also of care. It would be my hope that together we might build a household founded on respect and gentleness. For a moment, the only sound is the faint rustle of leaves outside the window and the low crackle of the fire in the grate. You draw in a slow breath, letting the warmth of the moment settle over you. That is a hope I would gladly share, Mr. Weatherby. You say softly, there is no grand declaration, no sweeping embrace that would be unthinkable in this world, but in the careful way Thomas's eyes meet yours, in the faint curve of his lips as he allows himself the smallest smile, you sense a tenderness far deeper than words. As the visit draws to a close, Thomas rises and bows slightly. May I inquire, miss, if you would care for a brief walk in the garden? If Mrs. Pembroke would kindly accompany us? You glance at your mother, who gives the slightest nod. That would be agreeable. You reply. The two of you stroll slowly along the gravel path, the air fresh with the scent of roses and damp earth. Thomas offers you his arm, and this time, as your gloved hand rests lightly upon it, there is no nervous tension, no hesitancy, only a quiet steadiness, as though this connection has begun to feel natural to you both. You pause beneath the shade of a flowering tree. Sunlight filters through the branches, dappling the path with patterns of gold and green. It seems strange, Thomas says quietly, to think how little time has passed, and yet how familiar you feel to me now. You glance up at him, allowing yourself the faintest smile. Not strange, Mr. Weatherby. Only natural, I think. The engagement is announced on a mild Sunday afternoon, with sunlight streaming through tall windows and the faint scent of beeswax, and roses hanging in the air. Your mother pens a series of careful notes to close family, friends, and acquaintances. Each letter is phrased with all the refinement expected of a household of your standing. Mr. and Mrs. your family name are pleased to announce the engagement of their daughter to Mr. T. Weatherby of Surrey. The match has been entered into with the full approbation of both families. No grand celebrations are planned. Such fanfare would be unseemly for a young lady of modest middle-class birth. Instead, there will be a series of small, quiet gatherings, tea in the drawing room, polite congratulations from visiting relatives, subtle nods of approval from your father's business acquaintances. But beneath all the restraint and propriety, you feel a quiet exhilaration growing, like a candle slowly gathering strength in a darkened room. Thomas calls more frequently now, each time he arrives precisely at the appointed hour, his boots polished, his coat brushed, and his expression calm but undeniably warmer than before. "Miss," he says gently as he greets you with a bow. You incline your head in return. "Mr. Weatherby," but when your eyes meet, there is a subtle change, something unspoken, something tender that lingers like a soft breeze. One afternoon, after tea, Thomas requests a moment with you in the garden. Your mother and Mrs. Pembroke exchange glances, then nod approvingly. "Only a moment," your mother says, "and stay within view of the windows." "Yes, Mama," you reply softly. The two of you stroll along the familiar gravel path, the faint crunch of your shoes blending with birdsong in the trees overhead. Thomas offers you his arm, and this time, as your gloved hand rests lightly upon it, there is a warmth there that feels almost natural. When you reach a secluded bench beneath a flowering chestnut tree, Thomas pauses. "Miss," he begins softly, his voice carrying a new depth, "may I ask your permission to offer you a small token?" You glance up, curious. "A token, Mr. Weatherby?" "Yes," he says gently, "a simple one, a keepsake, that you might remember this day." From the inner pocket of his coat, he draws a small velvet box. Inside lies a delicate locket on a fine gold chain. The design is elegant but modest, a tiny rose etched into the front, its petals curled as though caught mid-bloom. "It belonged to my grandmother," Thomas says quietly. "I would be honored if you would accept it." Your breath catches softly, though you manage to keep your composure. "Mr. Weatherby, I would be glad to." With great care, Thomas fastens the chain around your neck, his fingers brushing lightly against the nape of your neck through your high collar. Even that fleeting touch sends a ripple of warmth through you. "There," he murmurs, "it suits you perfectly." "Thank you," you whisper, your voice soft as the petals drifting from the tree above. For a moment, the world seems to still. The sunlight warms your face, the breeze carries the faintest scent of roses, and the sound of the city beyond the garden walls fades to nothing. This, you realize, is the closest you will come to intimacy in this world of careful rules and watchful eyes, and yet it feels more powerful than any bold gesture could. "A book of poetry, miss," he says softly, offering it to you. "Wordsworth, as promised. I thought you might enjoy it." The book is bound in soft leather, its pages faintly scented with ink and thyme. You run your gloved fingers over the cover, feeling the faint embossed letters beneath them. "Thank you, Mr. Weatherby," you reply. "I shall treasure it." Your mother, observing from across the drawing room, gives a faint smile and nods approvingly. "Perhaps," she says gently, "you would like a short walk in the garden before the light fades." "Yes, Mama," you say softly, a small flutter stirring in your chest. Outside, the air is warm and still, carrying the sweet scent of honeysuckle from the trellises along the garden wall. Thomas offers his arm, and you take it lightly, the touch now familiar yet still carrying that faint thrill of closeness. You walk slowly beneath the chestnut trees, the sound of your shoes muffled by the soft moss growing between the stones. The world feels quieter here, the city's hum fading to a distant murmur. miss," Thomas says after a long pause, his voice low and careful. "May I speak plainly?" You glance at him, your heart beating a little faster. "Of course, Mr. Weatherby." He stops, turning slightly toward you. "These past weeks have been the happiest of my life," he says, "and though I have sought to conduct myself properly at every step, there is one thing I wish for with your permission." You tilt your head, your breath catching softly. "A kiss," he says gently. "Nothing more. A simple token to mark our betrothal. In this world, even such a request carries weight. A kiss between an engaged couple is permitted, but only if granted with care and only if witnessed discreetly." You glance back at the house. Mrs. Pembroke stands at the far end of the garden, pretending to inspect a rosebush, but her watchful presence is a reassurance. You look back at Thomas and nod softly. "Yes, Mr. Weatherby, you may." He steps closer, his hand hovering as though to steady you but not daring to touch. For a moment, he searches your eyes, his own expression as tender as it is restrained. And then he leans in. The kiss is light, chaste, mere brushing of lips, softer than a falling petal. But in that fleeting touch is a world of promise, of care, of a quiet affection carefully nurtured. When he pulls back, his gaze holds yours for a breath longer. "Thank you," he murmurs. You lower your eyes, feeling your cheeks warm. "Thank you, Mr. Weatherby." The final days before your wedding pass in a gentle blur of silks and flowers, soft voices, and the faint rustle of paper as invitations are carefully folded and tied with ribbon. The house hums with quiet activity. In the mornings, you sit with your mother and Mrs. Weatherby in the drawing room, reviewing the guest list one more time, though by now every name is known by heart. In the afternoons, you and Mary examine lengths of ivory lace and pearl buttons, your fingers tracing delicate embroidery that will soon become part of your bridal gown. Each night, as you retire to your room, you feel the day's warmth lingering in your skin, and your mind drifts not to the ceremony or the luncheon that will follow, but to the soft steadiness of Thomas's gaze, the careful way he speaks your name, and the feather-light touch of his hand as he helps you into the garden carriage. On the morning before the wedding, the air is cool and sweet. A light mist clings to the garden roses, their petals beaded with tiny pearls of dew. You wake to the faint sound of carriage wheels passing in the street below and the comforting aroma of tea brewing in the kitchen. Bari enters with your breakfast tray, her eyes bright and her voice softer than usual. "Good morning, miss," she says. "The tailor has sent word. Your gown is ready for its final fitting." You nod, fingers tightening slightly around the warm porcelain of your teacup. The fitting takes place in the sunlit sewing room, where yards of ivory, satin, and soft tulle seem to glow in the morning light. As Mary fastens the final tiny buttons along your spine, you catch your reflection in the tall mirror. The gown falls gracefully, its skirt whispering against the polished floorboards. The lace along the high collar and cuffs has been stitched so finely it seems almost to float. You hardly recognize yourself in the glass knot because of the gown, but because of the faint, quiet glow in your own eyes. Later that afternoon, Thomas calls one final time before the wedding. It is, of course, a brief and proper visit. "Miss," he says softly as you greet him in the drawing room, "I wished only to offer my gratitude, and my hope that tomorrow will bring you joy." "Thank you, Mr. Weatherby," you reply gently. "I believe it will." For a moment, you both stand in stillness, aware of the watchful eyes of your mother and Mrs. Pembroke, but also of the soft current of feeling that flows between you now and sure, like sunlight on a still pond. That evening, the house quiets. As the lamplight flickers across your walls, you sit at your writing desk and pen a final note to Thomas. Asterisk, Mr. Weatherby, I thank you for the kindness and respect you have shown throughout our acquaintance. It is my hope that tomorrow marks not only the beginning of our marriage, but of a life of shared peace and gentleness. Yours sincerely. Your name asterisk. You fold the note carefully and set it aside, then move to the window. Outside, the stars are beginning to prick through the dark velvet sky, and the air smells faintly of lavender from the garden below. You draw in a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill your lungs. Tomorrow, everything will change, and yet, in some quiet, certain way, it already has. The morning of your wedding dawns with a pale golden light, soft and diffused, as though the sun itself understands the need for calm. The air is still, carrying the faint scent of roses from the garden below your window. You awaken slowly beneath the weight of the quilt, listening to the muted sounds of the house already stirring to life. Somewhere in the distance, a milk cart rattles softly over cobblestones, and closer by, you hear Mary's light footsteps ascending the stairs. She knocks gently before entering, carrying a small silver tray with a steaming pot of tea and 2 slices of buttered toast arranged neatly on fine china. Good morning, miss, she whispers, her voice warm. It's a beautiful day. You sit up, feeling the faint pull of anticipation deep in your chest, and nod. Yes, it feels as though the whole house knows. After breakfast, Mary helps you bathe, the warm water scented faintly with lavender oil. You let her hands guide you through the familiar motions, washing, drying, and then wrapping you in soft linens, feeling each moment like a ritual, slow and deliberate. In the sewing room, the wedding gown awaits on a dressmaker's dummy. Ivory satin glows in the morning light, the lace at the collar and cuffs almost too delicate to touch. Beside it, your shoes, tiny, soft leather slippers with pearl buttons, rest on a linen cloth, their faint scent of beeswax and lavender mingling with the roses brought in from the garden. Mary and your mother work quietly around you, fastening the buttons along your spine, smoothing folds of satin, and arranging the veil so it drapes just so. When you finally turn to the mirror, you barely recognize the young woman gazing back. The reflection is graceful, composed, yet beneath the high collar and smooth folds of fabric is a heart that beats a little faster than usual. A knock at the door. Your father enters, his boots polished to a quiet gleam, his hair combed neatly back. He pauses for a moment, taking in the sight of you, and a faint softness flickers across his face. You look, he begins, then clears his throat gently. You look every inch the bride your mother and I hoped you would be. You lower your eyes modestly, your fingers brushing lightly over the silk of your skirt. Thank you, Papa. Outside, the carriage is ready, its black lacquered body gleaming in the sunlight. The horse snorts softly, tossing its head as the driver checks the reins. As you descend the stairs, your skirts gathered carefully in one hand, you hear the faint creak of the banister and the quiet murmur of voices from below. The air smells of beeswax, linen, and the faint sweet note of roses arranged in vases throughout the hall. At the door, your father offers his arm. Shall we, my dear? You take it lightly, feeling the warmth of his presence, and step out into the morning air. The ride to the church is short, but feels dreamlike. The carriage rocks gently over cobblestones, sunlight streaming through the small windows to cast golden patterns across your skirts. When you arrive, Thomas is already waiting at the altar, He stands straight, his frock coat perfectly pressed, but there is a softness in his expression that makes the whole world seem to slow as you take your first step into the aisle. The church fills with the faint rustle of fabric and the soft sighs of onlookers. You let your breath deepen, your gaze steady, and feel the quiet weight of the moment settle around you like a warm shawl. This is it, the threshold between two chapters of your life, and the first notes of a new melody that will unfold, slow and tender, in the years to come. The church is quiet, filled with the faint scent of polished wood and beeswax candles flickering softly in their holders. Sunlight streams through tall stained glass windows, scattering colored light across the aisle in gentle hues of rose, gold, and sapphire. You stand just outside the nave, your father's arm steady beneath your hand. The lace of your veil trembles slightly with each breath, and for a moment the world narrows to the rhythmic beating of your heart and the warm, grounding weight of your satin skirts. When the organ begins to play low, rich notes that seem to wrap around the rafters like a soft shawl, you step forward. The aisle stretches ahead, lined with family and friends. Faces turn as you pass, expressions softened with quiet admiration. The only sound is the gentle swish of your gown brushing against the polished floor and the steady creak of the wooden pews as people rise in respect at the altar. Thomas waits. He is dressed impeccably, his dark coat cut to perfection, his gloves folded neatly in one hand. But it isn't his attire that draws your attention, it's the way he looks at you. Calm, steady, and warm, as though in this moment nothing else exists in the world. When you reach his side, he inclines his head just slightly and murmurs, "Miss." You meet his eyes and whisper, "Mr. Weatherby," and in that brief exchange, there is more tenderness than could ever be spoken aloud. The vicar's voice fills the church, low and even, guiding you both through the solemn vows. Each word feels deliberate, measured, carrying the weight of centuries, of tradition. "Wilt thou have this woman to thy wedded wife? To love, to comfort, to honor and keep her?" "I will." Thomas's reply is steady, his voice clear but soft. When it is your turn, your voice is calm, though inside, your heart seems to glow like the candles surrounding you. "I will." The rings are simple bands of gold, exchanged with careful hands. When Thomas slides the cool metal onto your finger, his touch is light, reverent. "With this ring, I thee wed." The words settle around you like a blessing. At last, the vicar pronounces you husband and wife. There is no grand display, no fanfare, only a moment of quiet stillness as the weight of what has just passed lingers in the air. Thomas turns to you, and for the first time in this long, carefully measured journey, he is permitted to lift your veil. The lace slips back, and the soft glow of sunlight falls across your face. "Mrs. Weatherby," he says quietly, and there is something almost awed in the way he speaks your new name. You allow yourself a faint smile, "Thomas," and then, before the eyes of family and friends, he leans closer and presses a kiss to your lips, chaste and delicate, yet carrying within it all the warmth and promise of the life you are about to share. The day passes gently. After the ceremony, there is a small luncheon in the garden of your family home. Tables are laid with crisp linen and set with simple bouquets of spring flowers. The air smells of fresh bread, sugared almonds, and roses warmed by the sun. Guests come and go, offering soft congratulations and kind smiles, but through it all, you remain by Thomas's side, your gloved hand resting lightly in his, and every so often your eyes meet in a quiet, shared understanding. This is just the beginning. As the sun dips low on the horizon, painting the sky in soft amber and lavender hues, the carriage arrives to take you both to your new home. You step inside, the door closing with a gentle click, and for the first time since this journey began, it is just the two of you. The carriage jolts softly as it pulls away, and you settle against the cushions, feeling the warmth of Thomas's hand as it comes to rest over yours. Neither of you speaks for a moment. There is no need. Outside, the world grows quiet. The steady clip-clop of the horses' hooves and the soft creak of leather harnesses blend into a lullaby, carrying you forward, not just through the streets of London, but into the shared life awaiting you. And as you let your head rest gently against Thomas's shoulder, your eyelids grow heavy here, in the gentle rocking of the carriage and the warmth of this newfound closeness. You feel a peace as soft and enduring as the vows you've just spoken. And so, the story fades with a grand flourish, but with the quiet contentment of two souls beginning a journey together, a journey marked by patience, respect, and the slow, steady blossoming of love. The carriage sways gently as it moves along the quiet streets, each turn bringing you closer to the home that will now be yours and Thomas's. The lamps outside glow like small stars, their warm light flickering over the polished wood and rich upholstery within. You sit in stillness, your hand resting lightly atop Thomas's gloved fingers. The gentle rise and fall of his breathing beside you is calming, steadying. Neither of you feels the need to fill the air with words. Instead, you simply exist together in the soft hush of this new beginning. When the carriage stops, the footman opens the door, and Thomas steps out first, offering you his hand. The cool evening air brushes your cheeks as you descend, and ahead, the house awaits a gracious Georgian structure, its windows glowing warmly as if to welcome you. The staff gathers quietly in the entrance hall, offering polite bows and murmured well-wishes. The house smells faintly of lavender, polish, and the faintest hint of wood smoke from a fire lit in the hearth. This way, Miss Thomas pauses, a small, almost shy smile touching his lips. Mrs. Weatherby, you glance at him, and for the first time, allow yourself a smile that reaches your eyes fully. Later, in the drawing room, you sit together near the fire. The warmth seeps into your fingers, the crackle of the flames blending with the faint tick of the mantel clock. Thomas sets aside his gloves and turns slightly toward you. "May I?" he asks softly, and you nod. He takes your hand, no gloves now, no barrier between skin, and for a moment, neither of you moves. It is the simplest of gestures, yet it carries all the weight of the vows you spoke that morning. "This day," he begins, his voice low and even, "has been the finest of my life, and it is my hope that each day to come will be marked with the same quiet peace." You look at him, the flickering firelight softening the edges of his face, and feel a deep, calm settle within you. "As do I, Thomas," you whisper. The evening stretches long and tranquil. Outside, the world slips into darkness, but here, within these walls, time feels slow, tender, and safe. As the hour grows late, the servants retire, leaving the house in perfect stillness. You and Thomas remain by the fire, the glow casting delicate shadows on the walls. In the stillness, your eyelids grow heavy. The steady warmth of the room, the soft rhythm of Thomas's breathing, and the faint sound of embers shifting in the great lull you into a dreamy haze. You close your eyes, letting the peace of this moment wrap around you like a soft quilt. And in this quiet, you know this is not the end of a story, but the beginning of one written slowly, gently, over the years to come. The world outside sleeps, and now, so can you. The house has fallen completely silent now. Beyond the tall windows, the world is cloaked in velvety darkness. The gas lamps along the street casting faint halos of golden light that flicker like distant stars. You lie in the great four-poster bed in your new home. The soft rustle of linen, sheets and the faint scent of lavender filling the air around you. The weight of the day lingers not heavy, but warm, like the last embers of a fire glowing softly in the hearth. In the chair beside the bed, Thomas sits quietly. He hasn't yet retired to his own chamber. Instead, he remains there, his coat set neatly aside, his expression calm as he gazes into the middle distance, as though even he cannot quite believe the events of the day. When he notices your eyes on him, he smiles faintly. "Are you comfortable?" he asks, his voice low and gentle, barely above a whisper. "Yes," you reply softly. "Very." And you are. The bed is warm and welcoming, the air in the room still and calm. There is no sound but the faint crackle of the fire in the grate, and the occasional groan of the house settling as it succumbs to sleep. "I know this life we are beginning will not always be simple," Thomas murmurs, almost as if speaking to himself. "But I promise you this, miss," he corrects himself with a faint smile. "Mrs. Weatherby, I will always strive to make it gentle and kind." You feel a soft warmth spread through you, not the wild rush of passion, but something quieter, deeper, like roots sinking gently into the earth. "Thank you, Thomas," you whisper, and for a moment the words seem to hang in the still air between you like a blessing. The fire burns lower, the shadows in the room stretching long and soft across the walls. Your eyelids grow heavier, and you allow yourself to sink deeper into the mattress, the linen cool and smooth against your skin. As you drift, you can still hear the faint sounds of this quiet Victorian house, the ticking of the clock, the sigh of the wind against the window panes, and Thomas's slow, steady breathing. Outside, London sleeps, and now, so do you. Sleep well, dear listener. May your dreams be as gentle and tender as the love that has blossomed here tonight. The night deepens. Outside the tall windows, the streets of London are utterly still, lit only by the faint glow of gas lamps casting their hazy golden light on the cobblestones. Even the city's ever-present hum has quieted, replaced by a hush so profound it feels as if the entire world is holding its breath. In the bedroom, the fire has burned low, its embers glowing like tiny stars nestled in the grate. The faint scent of lavender water lingers in the air, mingling with the warm aroma of beeswax polish and freshly laundered linen. You lie beneath the heavy quilt, your head sinking into the down pillow, and feel the slow, rhythmic pull of sleep tugging gently at the edges of your thoughts. Thomas is still seated near the fireplace, though now he leans back slightly in his chair, his hands folded loosely in his lap. His eyes are soft, his posture relaxed in a way you've rarely seen before. When he speaks, his voice is little more than a whisper. "Sleep, my dear. You need not worry about tomorrow, nor the days beyond. For now, there is only this moment, quiet and safe." You let his words settle over you like a warm shawl, your breathing growing slower, deeper, in time with the faint ticking of the mantel clock. Each sound in the room, the soft crackle of the dying fire, the creak of wood as the house settles, the quiet hum of the wind against the glass, blends into a lullaby, soothing and steady. The weight of the day slips away, layer by layer, until you feel as light as the mist drifting over the Thames outside. Your eyelids flutter closed. The last thing you see is the faint smile playing on Thomas's lips as he watches you drift into sleep. Rest well, he murmurs, almost to himself, and may your dreams be filled with nothing but peace. And so the story fades, not with an ending, but with a gentle promise that love, in its quietest form, endures through every season, every sigh, every soft breath in the dark. You are safe, you are calm, and now you can let go. The fire in the grate has faded now to a soft orange glow, its last embers settling into a delicate hush. The house is wrapped in silence, the kind of stillness so complete it feels like the world itself has paused to let you rest. Outside, London sleeps beneath a velvet sky. A light mist curls around the lamplights, blurring their glow into gentle halos. The streets are empty, save for the occasional distant sound of a carriage wheel echoing faintly before fading away into the night. You are tucked beneath the quilt, your breathing slow and even, your body sinking deeper into the warmth of the bed. The faint scent of lavender from the pressed linens lingers, soothing your senses. Beside you, Thomas remains in his chair, though his posture has softened, his head tilted slightly as though lost in quiet thought. His voice, when it comes, is barely audible, steady, almost like a prayer spoken into the quiet air. May every night bring you peace, my dearest. May the days to come unfold gently, like petals turning toward the sun. He falls silent again, and in that silence is a profound sense of calmness, though all the care, all the watchfulness of this house and this man are gathered around you, keeping you safe. Your eyelids flutter closed, heavier now, the pull of sleep, irresistible dot in your mind. The day drifts backward like a dream, the sound of church bells, the soft swish of satin skirts, the warmth of Thomas's hand as he helped you into the carriage. Each memory feels wrapped in gold light, distant but comforting. And now there is nothing more to do, nothing to think about, only the quiet, only the peace. The house has grown so still now that even the faint crackle of the last ember in the hearth seems to fade into silence. Outside, the world rests under a deep velvet sky, the glow of distant gas lamps like tiny stars lining the quiet streets of Victorian London. You lie nestled beneath the soft quilt, your body heavy and warm, your mind floating gently between wakefulness and dreams. The events of the Datha, hushed ceremony, the soft swish of your gown, the tender touch of Thomas's hand have all slipped into memory now, leaving only a sense of calm. Steady peace in the chair beside you. Thomas watches quietly. His eyes are soft, thoughtful, and in the glow of the dying fire, his face seems carved from the same warmth as the room around him. Rest, my love, he whispers, his voice like the faint brush of a feather. All is well. There is nothing more you need to do, nothing more you need to be. You are safe. His words settle around you like the softest blanket, their gentle cadence lulling you deeper into rest. Your breathing slows, the warmth of the room cradles you, and with each quiet heartbeat, sleep draws you in, tender and complete. Outside, the city sleeps. The carriages have long since gone silent, and the mist curls like ribbons around the lampposts. Even the river, Thames, seems hushed, its waters moving in slow, deliberate waves beneath the star-strewn sky. Here, in this timeless stillness, there is only peace. And now, dear listener, let yourself drift fully. Let your body grow heavy, your thoughts melt away, and your dreams carry you softly into a world as gentle and tender as this one. Thank you for sharing this journey through Victorian London. If you've enjoyed this story, take a deep breath, and when you wake, I hope you will carry with you the same calm and sweetness that fills this moment. Sleep well.